Have you ever wondered what the MonsterVerse would look like if the directors stuck with their original plans? We have got some interesting things to see between entirely new monsters that never made it into the films and early designs for Ghidorah and Godzilla that are way more terrifying than what we got on screen. So let's start with one of the most mysterious creatures in MonsterVerse history. Back in 2012, Legendary dropped a teaser for Godzilla, and fans lost their minds. The footage was dark and showed a massive dead monster lying in rubble. This thing was gigantic, with a centipede-like body and 8 arms sprawled out across the destruction. But not a single frame from that teaser made it into the 2014 film. Then director Gareth Edwards finally revealed the creature wasn't an original creation at all. It was actually El Gusano Gigante, a giant worm monster from the 1998 animated series. Edwards admitted it was just a placeholder used purely to show audiences that this Godzilla would be fighting other monsters. It was just a proof of concept to generate hype, and it worked perfectly. Now let's talk about Muto, another monster that almost made it into the 2014 film. This 6-legged beast looked like someone mixed an ankylosaurus with a crocodile. The design was heavily armored, with spikes running down its entire back and a tail covered in spikes. The streamlined body gave it this prehistoric predator vibe, and those 6 legs made it stand out immediately. The plan was for Muto to fight Godzilla in San Francisco. One piece of concept art showed them battling in the heart of the city, while another showed an epic showdown on top of Alcatraz Island. Eventually, Muto got scrapped, and Legendary went with the Mutos instead. There was also Pterodactyl, a winged kaiju designed early in development. This thing was a massive flying reptile with a pterosaur-like design. Some fans think it was an early version of Rodan, who Legendary eventually introduced in King of the Monsters. The similarities are definitely there. It's interesting because one of the Mutos in the final film actually had wings, so maybe some of Pterodactyl's DNA got recycled into that design. Both monsters were callbacks to classic Toho monsters, where Muto had that Anguirus vibe, while Pterodactyl channeled that Rodan energy. Fast forward to Godzilla x Kong, and we get one of the strangest stories. Meet Phosphira, a 150-foot-tall moth creature that almost replaced Mothra. Director Adam Wingard wasn't sure if Legendary could secure the license for Mothra, so they created Phosphira as a backup plan. Phosphira actually made it pretty far into production and even appeared in test screenings. Rumors began spreading that test audiences hated Phosphira, but Wingard shut that down. He explained the plan was always Mothra, but they weren't certain they'd get the rights. Despite Wingard calling Phosphira's use brief, the monster was literally carved into the temple set carvings, which are still in the movie. Also, every time someone says Mothra's name, the character is off camera, suggesting the actors probably said Phosphira during filming and the dialogue got redubbed later. Now here's where things get really interesting. Before King of the Monsters released, concept art of a massive scorpion titan leaked online. This giant scorpion titan looked terrifying with massive claws and an armored body. People started calling it Sargon, but it's actually just an unnamed scorpion titan. The creature never showed up in the movie due to movie-length constraints. But Monarch mentions an outpost in Israel, and X-rays show a titan that looks like a sea scorpion at that exact location. The X-ray is labeled as Methuselah, but the X-rays seem scrambled. So there's a real possibility the scorpion titan is the actual creature being held there, and we might see it in a future film. Kong Skull Island had its own share of unused creatures. The cave fisher was one of the creepiest designs, described as a primate-bat hybrid designed to ambush prey from the dark caves. Another Skull Island creature was the moon moth. This massive moth had beautiful leaf-like wings decorated with symbols, but get close and you'd see its retractable, piercing tongue. The moon moth was meant to show that even the pretty creatures on Skull Island were dangerous. Then there was the tripod, a villain creature that would have been terrifying. This thing had a unique 3-legged design that allowed it to swing from trees. The disturbing part was its confusing motion, where it could dislocate its shoulders and twist its arms in unnatural ways. It looks like something straight out of a horror movie. Godzilla vs. Kong gave us a look at Hollow Earth, and one creature that almost made it into the films was Shimida. This was inspired by shrimp, naked mole rats, and carnivorous plants. Shimida had overlapping armor plates and a flower-like mouth that could open so wide it blended with the terrain. It would burrow underground, waiting for prey to walk right into the trap. The design incorporated elements of Godzilla's gills, connecting it to the larger Titan biology. Its weakness was being vulnerable on the surface since it was adapted for underground living. For King of the Monsters, artist Ken Barthélemy created a wild variation for Ghidorah known as the Dragonfish design. He wanted something more alien, so he redesigned the heads to look like deep-sea dragonfish with scaly, elongated necks and slender, whiskery whisker-like barbels. Combined with bat-like wings, this version would have been way more unsettling, playing on those deep ocean horror vibes. This single concept completely reimagined the Titan as an aquatic-inspired nightmare, rather than a traditional dragon. There's also this really interesting concept showing what looks like a horse-Muto hybrid Titan. The most interesting detail is the big saddle on its back. This implies that large apes rode these creatures, similar to how Scar King rode Shimo in the New Empire. If this had made it into the film, it would have established that the ancient ape civilization had been using titans as mounts for thousands of years. The concept art shows it in a destroyed city, hinting at massive battles with mounted ape warriors. Going way back to 1954, the original Godzilla almost looked completely different. Before they settled on the iconic design, filmmakers actually proposed a giant octopus. When they decided on a dinosaur-inspired creature, they hired Kazuyoshi Abe to design Godzilla. His version got rejected because it looked too humanoid and mammalian. The most striking feature was the head shaped like a mushroom cloud, directly symbolizing the nuclear bomb. The design looks kind of silly in sketches, but just imagine seeing that in real life. The 2014 Godzilla also went through extensive design exploration. One version had Christmas tree fins, which were incredibly big and didn't match his body. Another design replaced fins with spikes, creating a porcupine version that looked really aggressive. Edwards loved it, but admitted it just wasn't Godzilla. One design looked too much like a T-Rex, with the fin-height ratio appearing extreme. They eventually landed on an angular, broken slate look that made the fins look like brittle ancient stone. There were also experimental designs that treated Godzilla as a constantly mutating organism. Finally, there were concepts exploring his aquatic nature. One design showed a thin tail used for underwater propulsion, while another featured channeled belly texture similar to baleen whales. These designs remind us that Godzilla is a creature of the deep, which is part of what makes him so unpredictable. And also, for the 2014 Godzilla, sound designers spent 6 months perfecting the King's roar by recording high-speed microphones against leather and metal. In Kong Skull Island, the massive ape was designed specifically to be 100 feet tall, making him the largest version of Kong in American cinema at that time. Move over to King of the Monsters, where Ghidorah's 3 heads were actually played by 3 different motion capture actors to give each head a unique personality. Finally, in Godzilla vs. Kong, the epic aircraft carrier battle took 4 months just to pre-visualize. It's these incredible details that bring the scale of these massive titans to life on the big screen. It's crazy to see how many hours of work go into designs and titans that never even make it to the screen. Which of these monsters do you wish had stayed in the final movie? Let me know in the comments below, because I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of these concepts. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next deep dive.